Good morning. We're in the tail end of John 6. We're going to be reading 66 to verse 70 today. We're going to finish this conversation Jesus is having where he introduces the thought of eating his flesh and drinking his blood. And that's brought great confusion to the crowd of disciples. Jesus has tried to kind of press this in and say, listen, what I'm talking about is you becoming dependent on what I have to give you for your life, because that animates your life to live according to God's purposes and will. Okay? But here's the response that we then read. From this time on, many of his disciples turned back and no longer followed him. So we know that there's a crowd of disciples larger than the 12. They don't get it, and it's too hard for them. And so they turn away. And Jesus observes this and says to the 12, "You don't want to leave too, do you?" Jesus asked the 12. Thank God for Simon Peter. He answers for the group and says, "Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. We've come to believe and to know that you are the Holy One of God." Then Jesus replied, "Have I not chosen you, the 12?" Okay, so here we have Jesus giving a hard teaching. Many are confused by it. And they turn away. They turn away from Jesus. And so he's left alone with the 12. And he asks them if they're going to leave too. And Simon Peter says, "Where would we go? Where else could we find the words of life that we find in you? We believe that you're the Holy One of God." So I love this response for a couple of reasons. Peter's not saying that he too is often baffled and confused by Jesus. He too, lots of things that he says is kind of over his head as well. And, he too perhaps struggled at times. But in the final analysis, Peter says, what we've experienced in you, what we've come to know about you, there's no place else to find truth and life but by you. I think we can all relate in some ways to this. We come to places that are hard and confusing in our faith. We experience things that make no sense to us. Pain, suffering, when other people that we love suffer, when people fall away, right? These are hard things. And we have to come to the place, as Peter did, where in our doubts, we say, yet I'm going to stick with Jesus. I'm going to stick with you, Jesus, even though I don't understand. I don't understand why you allowed this to happen. I don't understand why the world is the way it is, but I don't know where else to turn, because everything I've experienced of you brings me into life, brings me into truth. So if you're in a hard place today, these words I find great comfort in. Where else would I turn? There's no other place but in you, Jesus, that I find life and truth. I hope it's encouragement to you today. Grace and peace.